How's everyone doing out there? Welcome to our Center Court webinar series. We are thrilled today. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Ari Zuckerman, Vice President of the Center Court Academy, Sports Academy. We are thrilled to have Scott Treibly, a college recruiting expert, with us today. He's going to share just a ton of great information for everybody to take in. We have all of your questions. We have an awesome crowd today, so we're pumped for that. Thanks to everybody who submitted their questions. We will go through those a little later on in about the second half of the webinar. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Conrad Singh, our CEO of tennis at the Center Court Tennis Academy.
Thank you, Ari. Thank you, everyone, for making time this evening to be here. It's an absolute pleasure to have Scott with us, who is a part of the Center Court landscape for a good decade now. Scott's a really close personal friend, also with Clay Bibby, our owner and founder. They used to grow up beating each other around the courts, from what I hear. Scott is not only an expert and I believe the number one guy on the planet, he's also a former college coach. He's a pioneer in this space with big academies like IMG. And all I can say is that we've had a ton of success working together. Scott's extremely well respected, extremely well networked, and he's absolutely done some magic in the time that we've been able to work together. So, Scott, firstly, thanks for coming, mate. I know it's a big chunk of time for you and your busy schedule, but we're absolutely delighted to have you tonight. I know you got a presentation for us, and then we're going to have some banter with some questions. So, Scott, welcome to Center Court webinar on the pathway to college.
Well, thank you guys, Ari, Conrad, Sophia behind the scenes. Really appreciate the invitation, the work that I've been able to do the last 10 years with you, Conrad, my relationship going back many years with Clay. It's an amazing club, an amazing program. And I'll just say this. I mean, basically, Center Court Tennis has, if we're going to talk in UTR, that has placed kids in college that are 14 all the way to 4. Okay. And so what I really want to start with is that there is an opportunity for everybody if you follow the pathway, and the pathway must start very early, and that's high school. Okay. Now that doesn't mean you need to start contacting coaches in high school, but it starts early. And this is my first slide. The first slide is that there are 1,700 programs that across 7 divisions. So if you can make a criteria that can fit some of these schools, you can find a college opportunity. Again, I'm Scott Treibly. My cell phone is at the bottom here, and if you want to text me, I've certainly helped over 1,000 families go to college to play tennis. And I'm certainly happy to set up a call to have conversations with you. If I move to the next slide, what I consider trying to go to college a 100-hour project. And as I said, you start in high school. So over these 4 years, you're spending 100 hours on the college tennis pathway. That doesn't include school. That doesn't include practice. That doesn't include SAT or ACT prep. That is simply trying to identify schools, coaches, campuses that might be a good fit for you. And I break these into 4 categories: academics, athletics, scholarship, and location. And so it's really important to say to yourself, what are my priorities? Of course, everybody wants a good coach, good scholarship, and a good place. But it can't be perfect everywhere. And sometimes you've got to be willing to be flexible with your priorities to get what you want. I always tell people to go if you're close, if you like it, and give it a chance. The number one thing here we are in a tennis webinar, and my first basic slide is grades, because we're talking about being a student athlete here. And for the most part, Conrad talked to me about the prep and said everybody wants to know about the climate of college tennis. And yes, the climate of college athletics. And yes, it's changed. Okay, at a very high level. But we've got to understand that if we want to go to a good academic school, grades 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th are crucial. Do you have to have straight A's? Well, it depends. But you certainly want to try and have as good a grades as you possibly can. Results. At the end of the day, it's a result-oriented business. I'd tell you there's, 3 or 4 ways that coaches judge players. Obviously have UTR, have ITF, have the WTN, which is also USTA. Tennis recruiting is another tool that coaches use. And I would tell you that that's what draws the coaches in, is that what's your ranking, what's your rating, that draws them in. But next is that they're going to look at your results, call it your last 12 to 25 results between your junior, summer, and senior year. That's when you'll be ultimately judged, and a lot of the decisions will be made, when you're going into the fall of your senior year. Of course, it could be more into your senior year, but there's a November 1 deadline, so the strong academic schools have an early decision, early action, and also there's a signing period for scholarships that's in November. So that November of your senior year is kind of a bit of a timeline target. College list. So again, 9th and 10th grade, do you need to be super, super serious about your college tennis pathway from the standpoint of contacting coaches? Not necessarily, but should you start to be developing a list of schools that you think could be that could be a fit for you? And again, I go back to WTN, UTR, and we know now what teams' top 6 are. We know what their ratings are. And so you can take a look at what their top 6 are and say, am I tracking into their top 6? So if I'm a freshman or sophomore, 9th or 10th grader, am I tracking into their top 6? Obviously, you have time. You have still 2 or 3 more years to get results, but it's good to make a list and have an idea of what could be a fit for you. I love to make lists. I love to make big lists, 25, 30, 35 schools. I want large, medium, small school, urban, rural, East Coast, West Coast. Now, again, this goes back to priorities. As a family, you all could say, well, location's important. We want to stay in the Northeast. Well, the good part about staying in the Northeast is the majority of colleges and universities are on the East Coast. Not as many out West, but of course there are good ones out there that if you are interested, you could consider. Going back to making this list goes back to our 4 priorities. What do we want from tennis? What do we want from scholarship? What do we want from academics? Some people are like, I want to go to the best school possible. I'll make the tennis work, or I want to play tennis. Or, hey, we've put a lot into this. I want to get a good scholarship. And again, you can have a little bit of each, but you have to have your priorities straight. And again, a list early on, lists can change. Never have I made a list and 2 years later has it been the exact same. And of course, over time, we want the list of 30 schools to shrink. By the time you get to that junior summer going into your senior year, you should be down to 5 or 6 schools. The ACT and the SAT, I guess the answer here is that you need to take the test. I spoke to the UC San Diego coach today. I'm working with somebody that's looking there, and the UC schools don't take the test. So it's not necessary. There are other schools like Bowdoin, Bates, and Colby that are good Division III schools in the Northeast. They don't take the test. Lafayette doesn't take the test. But I would also tell you there are a lot of schools that do. Hy-Vee leagues want it. Even the strong Big Ten schools want it. Haverford, Swarthmore, NYU, Case Western, they want the test. So it's very important that going into your sophomore year, you start to do some prep work so that in your junior year, you can take this test once or twice. It's a 2-hour and 15-minute test. It used to be a 4-hour test. It's digital. Everyone does prepare for it a little bit. It makes it a level playing field these days to get preparation. And so my advice is take the test at least once, maybe twice, and then see what you need to do. I realize you have very busy schedules, and so you need to use weekends to take SAT, and that's when tournaments are, and so there's only so much time. So you have to be very cognizant of your time with this test. Contacting coaches. So, as you can see, it's really, so first of all, in Division I, coaches can contact you after your sophomore year, June 15th, that summer, and you can start taking visits basically in the fall of your junior year. There are unlimited visits. to colleges in Division I now. It used to be a limit of 5. But contacting college coaches. So you have your college list, and I generally think that in your junior year is when you want to start contacting college coaches. And we're moving to the point where we're not using email quite as much. We're using text messaging. We're using even WhatsApp with coaches. We're using social media messaging as well. But I would say that, in 2026, January, if you were contacting 20 coaches, you start with emails, and then quickly as they reply, you start to communicate with them in text messages. It is important that you, the prospective student athlete, the junior tennis player, reach out to the coaches, not your coach, not even a recruiting agency like a recruiting advisor like myself, and definitely not your parents. You want to make that first you want to send that first email, show leadership, show that you are the person that wants to go to this school, and tell them a little bit about yourself. Is it okay to get some help drafting this email? Absolutely. Is it okay to get some help with, hey, what do I say to a coach? What do I text them back? Of course. But you want to lead the charge as much as possible. Should you get some help? Absolutely. I don't think anybody should go through this process alone. But again, you want to be the CEO of your future. And again, as you can see, there's different ways to communicate with coaches. And I say this word down here is just stay in touch. You want to be active and consistent in this process. So when Conrad and I work together, I don't talk about forehands. I know plenty about forehands, but I talk about the communication process that goes with recruiting and admissions. It is about being consistent. It is about being professional. And these are the things that you need to spend extra time on as you go through this process. This is a sample email, and I'm going to be very honest, this is what not to do. I know that might sound a little funny, but the reality is that what we really want to focus on up here is 3 or 4 lines. As you can see, this first, my name is, I currently train with, my coach's email is, my email is, my ranking and rating is, and here's a video clip of me playing. This is generally, you do not need to write paragraphs. If they want more information, they're going to write back and they're going to ask for it. Coaches are running their businesses out of their pocket. They are on the court. They are in vans. They are having to go to meetings. They get multiple emails every day. So we want to make this as concise as we possibly can in the early going. At some point, it is good, whatever your level is, unless you're a super high UTR and you're at the national tournaments and all the coaches are there, you definitely need to try to make a video. It's not a make or break, but and it generally coaches want to see points. If you go onto YouTube right now and you look up college videos, you'll see a lot of hitting and practicing and cross courts. I think the better videos are points. Again, concise points, start and stop points, to where you take 25 points and you make it into 2 minutes. And as you can see here, I have some tips on how to make it. You want to hold the phone horizontally. You want to tape 25 points. It can be a set. It can be serve 5 each. It can be multiple tiebreakers. I would also say that you want to be on the near side, closest to the iPhone being, or the smartphone being held horizontally. And again, you want to make sure the points are edited. That's not to say that we're trying to make a highlight reel, but we want to make it as concise as possible because the coaches are probably only going to watch for a minute or 2. As you can see here, and this is center court. This was a video that we used, and you can see that swing vision was utilized, which is fantastic. Center court also has someone that puts these together professionally, does a fantastic job. And also with the swing vision, it does automatic editing. But as you can see here, this prospective student athlete is in the near court playing points, and you can see that the camera is sort of wide lens and it's clear. If you were on the other side of the court, it would be much more difficult to see your strokes, especially when a coach is watching on their smartphone. College visits, I went through this a little bit. earlier. And again, the main thing is that, talking to coaches, talking to your coach, talking to your parents, looking at websites, those are all great things, but you need to get on some campuses because you can't see and feel a campus until you've really seen it. Yeah, I think a great thing to do is to get onto campus, set up a meeting with the coach, ask the coach if you can watch practice, and go on a campus tour with either the campus tour offered by admissions or maybe one of the teammates can do it. Again, you try to set this up ahead of time. These are more unofficial visits. Don't get caught up in the unofficial versus official. Official visits are more of a Division I thing where the Florida Gators are going to bring you in on a on an official visit. They pay everything, but you're also, a highly ranked, potentially nearly a pro tennis player. Most of the time, the other visits are partially funded by you. Some funding by the school. But again, if you're willing to kind of go on these trips on your own, you can dictate the timing of them, and you can also see multiple schools. I love it when you go on a Friday and you see 2 schools. You drive in Thursday night, see a school on Friday morning, see another school on Friday afternoon, and to try to get on to 5, 6, 7 campuses over your junior and senior year, super crucial. You're going to have good visits and bad visits, and that's what helps you get to yes. Financial aid, scholarship, name, image, and likeness. I'm sure that this is going to be a part of. I know we've got over 30 questions that have been sent in, and I know that this will probably be a part of it. The bottom line is that Division I and II have scholarships. Division 3 does not, but they have merit awards. So don't think you can't get the scholarship at the Division 3 level. There's also financial aid. College Board has a lot of different grants that you can look up. And then the word name, image, and likeness, I'm sure we'll touch on this a little bit, is the players are getting paid now. That is absolutely true. I would tell you that the top 10 or 15 players of the men, top 10 or 15 players of the women Division I, and maybe a few others are definitely getting some dollars. But after that, I would not tell you that players are getting paid. And again, if anybody wants more information on that, I'm certainly happy to talk about it. Last slide is just again, there's an admissions part to this. I mean, we talk about tennis, we talk about results, tournaments, training. I mean, again, all those things are so important. But again, you do have to fill out an application and you have to work with admissions. One thing that I do a lot of with my clients is we talk about pre-reads. So what that means is that between your junior and senior year, you send your transcript in to the coach takes it over to admissions, and admissions says, hey, this person's admittable. You then have to fill out an application. So everybody has to fill out an application. Everybody has to write an essay to multiple essays. So this is just something to be aware of, that this is part of the process. It's good to start this early. It's not super time consuming, but you want to do it well. We, call it winning applications. And again, writing that essay is 500 words, the main essay. So it's just something you want to put some time into. So I'm rounding out these, I'm rounding out the 10 steps, Ari and Conrad. I don't know if you guys want to start to kind of, go through the questions. I'm just going to put these 10 steps up here just as a background. I think we can kind of go from here.
Scott, absolutely excellent info. I love a lot of what you've just presented to us. I'm sure that I'll let Ari go through the questions one by one. For me, my initial question, which is basically around the tennis side before the academic side, if that's okay. There's a lot of kind of fluster in the air of what's more important, when you get to college. Is the coach looking at is the coach looking at national ranking? Are they looking at WTN? Are they looking at ITF? There's a myth that I believe is a myth. Please tell me if I'm wrong. An ITF ranking of 1,700 is more powerful than a USTA ranking, or let's say a kid playing level 1's USTA who's in the top 200. For me, from my experience, the top 200 USTA rankings are going to have a lot more weight than an ITF ranking that's at 1,700. I think the ITF rankings really kick in at around 500, 500, then it's sort of more on the page of what the coaches are looking for. And my last part to that multiple phase question is the UTR. People think are really, it's not important anymore. I kind of disagree. I think it's the college coach language, and that'll take some time to change, especially as WTN right now is really not that reliable.
Well, first of all, this result piece, this ranking piece is the most important part if we're going to talk about tennis. Now, again, there are intangibles. If you're going to be a great team player and you do have those good grades and you come from a good family and you have the ability to not take as much scholarship, these things do help you. But the leader here are the results. And I would just tell you that all of these circuits are good. Tennis is tennis, in my opinion. The ITF circuit is by far the most prestigious internationally. It's a track to the Grand Slams. It's a worldwide tournament circuit. And, again, you get to play the best players in the world, depending on, the level you're going to play. I think what's really, really great about the ITFs is that there's going to be over 30 ITF tournaments in the U.S. We haven't seen that. We've never seen that, and I would tell you that there's even more on the way, and that's both out west. It's going to start out west at the beginning of the year, and then it moves east coast as we get into the summer and the fall. So I think that there's an amazing opportunity for the ITF circuit. I would tell you that you need flexibility with your school, and you've got to be willing to travel, and that there's definitely a cost that comes with that travel. From the USTA perspective, look, I think it's the best circuit for the Americans. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you have level 1 to level 7. Obviously, I would tell you most kids aren't going to be playing level 7s, but obviously all the other ones, depending on what you're doing with your are you in the 16s or 18s? Are you moving up? Where are you playing? This type of thing. And then to get into the actual rating, yes, look, WTN came online, but if I went and sat around an academy or I went and started talking to college coaches right now, they would still be talking in UTR. And I had a meeting with the ITA CEO at the end of the year, and he confirmed that. So that is still, UTR is still spoken. It is definitely probably spoken more than WTN. And again, it took UTR 10 years to come online and be mature, and it's probably going to be the same thing, or with WTN, it's going to take a number of years. And then the other one that I would tell you is tennis recruiting. The coaches do use it. Some of the older school coaches, the coaches that have been around a little bit longer, still use it. It's a tool they've used for a number of years. I would suggest keeping that profile page updated. And I would tell you they do look at those national rankings, and they love the tennis recruiting because they can get your contact information. They can also look at your page, and you can see that. And again, if a coach has looked at your page 8 or 9 times, it's a school you're interested in, and you haven't heard from them, you should reach out.
Ari, you got any questions you want to start with?
Yes, I do. I have a lot of good ones. Some of them you've covered. So let me start with. All right, let me break in here. Okay. What is your opinion, Scott, and I guess Conrad as well, on traditional schooling versus full-time commitment to tennis? Online schooling, tennis academy, boarding schools, does one have a huge difference in the recruitment process from a coach's perspective? I like that one.
Well, I'm just going to say it word for word from an Ivy League coach. Get me a player and I'll find a way to get him in. And so, again, that doesn't mean you can be a C student and get into an Ivy League school. It doesn't mean that at all. But, if you could go to an online school and you make good grades and you got the results, these good schools will, their admissions departments, they know that online schools are not as strong as brick and mortar. But again, coaches do have some flexibility with admissions if you can help their team. And, it depends. It is school by school, admissions department by admissions department. I mean, Caltech and MIT are not going to give you as much flexibility as, other schools would. But, like the NESCAC schools have slots. The Ivies have slots. You still have to have good test scores. They work on an average. You still have to take AP classes. But, again, if you want to see the best results, it usually comes with online schooling. If you want to play ITF tournaments, it probably requires online schooling. And I think that the older you get, the more necessary it becomes if you want to continue to trend up. sitting in a school until 3:00 and then trying to get your tennis in. It's hard. Can kids do it? Absolutely, but it's hard.
My take on that is categorically that online schooling at a quality institution like the Dwight School or ICL or Laurel Springs, well-reputed schools, they really do help players become better players and good students. I won't do it, but I could name 10 names off the top of my head that are at top schools, Ivy Leagues. Michael Jang is one. He was a full-time player, 3 years, then went back to school, then came out again, went back to school again. So I think it's about where your playing level's at and what your requirements are as a player. But I do believe that going online, let's say being full-time for a minimum of 1 year, for me, is mandatory at this stage, knowing the landscape of tennis. So if I look at all the kids who are absolutely ripping it at college level now, they all did full-time at some point. And there are some kids that were not officially full-time, but they had a customized, personalized academic schedule that their parents were able to speak with, the school, the academic director, and get some type of understanding that they were able to then train up to 12, 14 hours a week. And as you said, Scott, one of the critical points, it's not just the hours you do. It's easy to log hours, but it's the quality of the hours. So the kids that are able to train while they're fresh, able to recover properly, they're able to come out and do their school in between and finish a day and still have time to stretch and do all the other things. That's what makes the difference. We say that the key to proper development, the hidden aspect, is the recovery. And we never talk about recovery, but that's the thing that online kids are able to do at a full-time program while they're also academically pursuing what they need to pursue. So yes, I believe you're going to be the next superstar coming through college. You do need to do at least 1 year, if not 2, of full-time tennis. And I agree with you, Scott. There is absolutely players that have not done that, and they've been great players. But it's way, way harder.
I totally agree. It can definitely be done, but, getting those, and the word recovery, I had a kid I worked with in Chicago. He was debating between staying in his high school or going online. And he said, the reason I want to go online is so I have time to recover. He literally said that. Because you put so much into this, and then you play the tournaments on the weekends. And again, it takes a lot out of you.
Ari, you got another one?
I do. Yes, I do. There's a couple of similar topics in a couple of these. So, let me make this a two-parter. So for the younger kids that are maybe, even 10, 11, 12 years old that are starting to compete, that are playing, when should they start, there's a couple questions. When should they start thinking about possibly getting homeschooled, online learning, taking a year off? What's your opinion on that? And then let me put the second part of that one as, we know that there's probably a program for everybody, but if you're a high school kid with like a 4 or 5 UTR, like what are some benchmarks maybe for a D3 school, a D2, and a D1 in terms of what's a realistic expectation for kids as they enter high school? So I'll give that as a two-parter.
So what was the first part, Ari? Sorry.
The first part was for our younger kids that are 10, 11, 12 years old that are starting to think about maybe taking a year of homeschooling or what's your thoughts on that?
Let me answer the first part, Scott, if I can.
Yeah, please.
Guys, I've been doing this for full-time programs and, elite player programs, kids who are homeschooled for a better part of almost 30 years. And I can tell you that in the last 5 to 7 years, post-COVID, that will be the kind of line in the sand for me. Kids are doing homeschool online way earlier. And the reason being, most of the schools are ready for some type of situation where kids have to be online. Obviously, the internet and all the rest has helped dramatically. But we're seeing kids now, and again, I don't want to throw names, but I can think back to one boy that did full-time at 10 years old, and I told his parents he's way too young, but we'll take him because it's that era. And he was number one in the country about a year ago, 8 months ago, a year ago. That would not have happened, I'm sure, if he was not homeschooled early. Now, did he get the improvements at those early ages that we really, really wanted? Well, I would then say that high-performance coaching, i.e. online schooling, full-time academy work, you don't see immediate results. What you do is you lay the foundation and you lay the ability for those players later to climb. And that's what we saw with a lot of kids, and we've seen that have started homeschooling earlier, 11 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old is pretty normal, but before that, it's not that normal. The factor that we got to really think about is, are they responsible? Are they fairly mature for their age? Can they handle the amount of time they spend on their own? And are they really going to be able to follow the schoolwork with less support than they would have in a normal school structure? But certainly younger is very smart, in my opinion, in today's world. It's so competitive. I also have two of my own children that play tennis. They're very competitive, very good players. And I can tell you almost everyone at the 12 and under age group in the top 10, 20 in the country is homeschooled. It's almost impossible to compete at that level with the kids that are homeschooled. So that's part one of my opinion there, Ari.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a great info. And then part two, there's a couple of questions about, realistic expectations for kids who are playing high school tennis, whether they should be going for D3, D2, D1. How should one kind of break that down and consider based on ranking, UTR, all that kind of stuff?
Well, first of all, I mean, if you're playing high school tennis, what's so great about it is that you're getting, matches. You're getting to play on a team. You're playing, the matches are during the week, so generally you're not missing practice. Again, usually kids need to find a way to cater their practices with center court and with the high school coaches so that you can keep it cruising along, and keep some continuity with your training. But in terms of, hey, I'm a high school player, can I go to college? Well, the answer is yes. But, again, if we had to start giving some rankings or ratings on what it takes to go to certain schools, I mean, I'm happy to give that breakdown if someone wants to put it in the chat. But, I would tell you on the Ivy League side, it's a 5-star league for tennis recruiting, and on the boys side, it's 12 plus to get support. I'd tell you it's 8.5, 9 on the girls side. I would tell you 11's a magic number in the really, really, really good D3s, like the Amherst and the Williams on the boys side, and on the girls, I'd tell you it's an 8. If you want to get just a scholarship, to like an Indiana on the girls side, I would tell you it's a 10. UTR, and if you wanted to go to Indiana on the boys side, I'd tell you it's a high 12. But I would also say I've placed a 3 UTR, and I've placed them in a very good academic school. These things take time. You've got to be willing to, talk to a lot of coaches, take visits, take chances, and that type of thing. And again, it's about going through the process. This is not a race. It's a process. And that's where you want to understand that at the end of your sophomore year, you got to commit to this on a weekly basis. And then get some help from someone like myself, someone like Conrad, your parents, your guidance counselors, to help make sure you've identified the right schools. And what's so beautiful now is we have these rating systems where we can see who their top 6 players are. And if you can track within a half point into their top 6, then you have a chance to get recruited by the coach. So I hope that answers your question. I know I was a little all over the place.
No, that's a great answer, Scott. I really, I got a lot out of that. I got one question, Ari. I know you've got a ton of questions. I want to throw one in that's being texted to me as we speak. Scott, talk to me about reclassing and the basic specs around that versus gap year, which is also doable. And at the other end of the process, give us a little bit of a snapshot on those two topics.
Okay. Well, I'll give you the basic rule, and then I'll tell you that we are living in a world where anything goes. And when I say that anything goes, Florida just got a player from Germany eligible that was 440 WTA and is 26 years old. Okay. Tennessee just got a 21-year-old female player eligible that played in the U.S. Open 5 years ago and had almost $500,000 in prize money. So some of the rules that I understand and that I'm saying to you all are, the NCAA, if you challenge them enough and you have a compliance department like Tennessee and Florida, we're seeing a lot of inconsistencies, I guess I should say. But let me talk to you about reclassifying and gap years for, someone that wants to go to Bucknell or, Georgetown or whatever, and they just need another year. I would tell you that the rule has been that you cannot, it's not where you finish, it's where you start. So once you start the 9th grade year, you need to finish your 16 core courses within 4 years. So you're not supposed to stop and reclass. If you want to reclass, you need to reclass in the 8th grade, which means you're probably going to have to attend a different school. If you once you finish high school, you can take a 6-month gap. You can take 6 months off. Let's just say you can take a gap year after you graduate. But in terms of once you've started the 9th grade, you need to continue and finish on time. And then if you want to take the extra year after, you can. If you truly want to reclass, it needs to be in the 8th grade. With a small asterisk, anything goes as well. But Conrad, just please understand that Georgetown, Bucknell, and these types of places in the Ivies, their compliance departments are not going to battle with the NCAA like Florida and Tennessee are.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And Scott, I mean, in our 10 years of working together, we've seen every single story. That's 2 and 3-fold in every different direction. But it's such an important topic because there's so much vague information out there. And I think it's great that you've laid that out in black and white. It's the 9th grade's the cutoff. Once you start, you got to finish. Here's another random question. If you start the 9th grade, how long do you get? Is it a month? Is it 2 weeks to say, hey, I think I'm not going to do this. I'm going to reclass.
I would say that you definitely would have the first period of that the 9th grade year. I mean, definitely the first 3 weeks, you could certainly kind of turn back. I don't think you could once you got to the middle of the semester or the end of the semester. Again, it depends on the school and how flexible they would be with you. I mean, again, that comes down to sometimes headmaster advisors and stuff like that. But usually families, they know. They know that, hey, we have to do this in the 8th grade. And it's really hard, Conrad, to do it in the 8th grade, right? I mean, you don't know. You know in 3 years that you have a crystal ball when you're an 11th grader. So that's what makes it difficult. But the good news is you can take a post-grad year. And look, if families are willing to invest that extra year and kids are willing to take that time, it is so beneficial because at that point you get an extra year of maturity. You're actually playing without having to go to school. You probably have to do some enrichment, but you're playing without having to go to school, and you can really, really, you have your senior year grades count, all of them, not just a semester, and you can really, really make some progress. But I will tell you, if I get asked 100 times about the post-grad year, probably 5 families take that actually take the post-grad year. Usually they stay on track.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome. Ari, I'll keep asking questions.
Yeah, let's do a little rapid fire so we can get through a couple of these here. I'll throw them at you. What's a common mistake that players make when targeting schools or during the recruiting process, like that one?
I think that the biggest mistake that I see is you're not realistic in the sense that there's 3 tiers in making your list. There's reach, which are the ones that are, a little out of hand, you can't quite get there. There's target, where you're pretty close, and then there's safety, likely what we say. And you need to tell yourself, I can't just go for the reach. I have to have target and safety in there, and you have to keep an open mind. I told a girl this week, she is just committed to Bucknell, and I told her, I said, I was really good at helping you get no's. And she's like, all those no's helped me get a yes. And what I mean by no's, Ari, is like, hey, this school said no. This school said no. We went and visited this school and we didn't like it. This school, my parents didn't like. And then, but all of that helped us keeping the open mind and staying with the process helped us get to yes.
Okay, so let's move into, I know you mentioned it briefly, but there's a couple questions about academics. How do academics impact your recruiting leverage? And can strong academics compensate, for maybe some tennis results that are maybe dipped a little bit?
Love this question. So let me flip it both ways. Your tennis can help your academics, and your academics can help your tennis. So, I've got a kid right now that is incredibly strong, APs. He's got stem cell projects, competes in math competitions. But he's not, he's a little off with his rating and ranking, but you know what? His academics is going to help his tennis a little bit, right? Because the coaches aren't going to have to give him as much support to get into the school. And then I would tell you that, hey, I just said it. Lots of these schools have slots. If not, they have support. And if you are going to play in their top 6, a coach has the ability to help you get into a school if you're close. So there's your academics can help you get in, and your tennis can help you get in.
Ari, I need to bunny hop and ask a question that just came through by text.
No problem.
Really, really good question. The question is, I'm curious to know if Ivy League schools consider a 5-star rating and a 12 plus UTR as sufficient, or if they also would value significant wins like an L1 championship, for example, Kalamazoo or Easter Bowl in New Orleans.
100%. Look, if you want to get academic support in the Ivies and you're in the 12s, you're on the boys' side, men's side, you're right in range. If you're a 5-star, you're right in range. And then if you're able to get results at an L1, absolutely, 100%.
Thank you, Scott. Great answer. Sorry, Ari, continue.
All right, a couple. Is there any difference between? There's a couple about scholarships, which I kind of like, which caught my eye. Is there a difference between academic, athletic, and need-based aid? And then how should families think about partial scholarships in tennis?
Super question. Again, I would tell you that, okay, at the very, very high level, at the Big Ten and the SEC and the ACC and all these top conferences, they have, on the ladies' side, they have full scholarships. On the men's side, they have very, very, very good scholarships. I would tell you that if you're going to go to an Ivy League school or a Patriot League school, they have no scholarships. I would tell you if you're going to go to a Division III NESCAC like an Amherst or a Williams, they have no scholarship. And then everything else, I would tell you that you can get merit money. I would tell you in Division I and II, you can get athletic money. And so what we like to do is stack money. So say you want to go to a Division I that's solid academically, they have athletic dollars and they have academic money. You take those two, you take the scholarship from each and we stack it and we do everything we can to bring that price down. Because look, the cost of going to college has only gone up. We are seeing schools that cost $100,000, $75,000 to $100,000. Now, state schools would be a little less, but some of these private schools are way, way up there. So the goal is to bring that price down, to try to get some dollars out of admission and to try to get some dollars out of athletics. I also had in my slide College Board. There are additional grants, and then there also is the FAFSA. Again, if you make a certain amount of money, I don't know if you're going to qualify for federal aid. Of course, it makes sense to at least try. But again, if you're at a certain threshold, you may not qualify, but you can certainly get merit dollars and grant dollars and athletic dollars.
I'm sure that's super helpful. I mean, I'm at the age where some.
I just got one more question. Sorry, Scott. Some parents are asking me, is there a negative connotation or perspective behind being an online student? Meaning, do those kids that are studying online versus regular schooling, are they seen somehow negatively? And do good grades in AP courses neutralize that negative perspective if it exists?
So this is an unbelievable question. I'm loving this. Okay. And so here's the answer. Again, you answered this question already, Conrad, in the sense that Dwight Global, ICL, Laurel Springs, I mean, these are strong, if not the best online schools in the world. So you are in good hands if these are the schools that you're looking at. And I will just tell you that if you can make good grades in the hardest classes at whatever school you're at, you're going to be okay with an admissions department. Do AP classes help you? 100%. Again, we use the word rigor. You have to take rigorous courses, whether you go to Newark Academy or you go to Laurel Springs. You have to take the hardest classes at whatever school you're at, and you need to dominate if you want to go to a top academic school.
Epic answer. Over to you, Ari.
All right. I'm going to give you one more, like this one. I'm going to make this our final question from everybody who's listening in. What's one thing every junior player in getting, thinking about the college process or even competing should be doing right now? One thing every junior player should be doing right now that you'd recommend? Maybe you'd give a couple things, but at least one thing.
Well, the number one thing, and again, Conrad, you and I talked about this a little bit in our meeting today, is I think we should discuss social media. How do you handle social media? Look, is everybody on this webinar, including the three of us, on social media at some point every day? Do we have social media accounts? Yes. So here's what I want to say is that you can use your social media in a positive way. You can use your social media to follow programs that you think might be of interest, whether you're 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th. And then on the flip side, you can use your social media to put in video clips of you playing tennis, photo of you holding a trophy, something along those lines. I do want to talk about the dark side of social media in the sense that you need to keep the social life out of it. Did interviews with coaches at the Winter Nats a few years back, and 19 out of 20 coaches told me that they use social media in the recruiting process, which means when you send that text or that email to them, they are going to go and look you up. Okay. And I told Conrad this today. Admissions departments have hired experts to scour social media accounts on their applicants. So this is something that can work for you, and it can work against you, so you need to be very careful. So Ari, if I had to select one thing, that would be the tip that I would like to say, hey, this is something you can do 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th to help you, but just to make sure you're very professional.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Probably not something that, a lot of people are thinking about, especially the kids that are younger, but yeah, I mean, just...
If I can pipe in there real quick, obviously I'm on the ground as a coach, and I can tell you right now, your social media presence in terms of building your brand is absolutely pivotal if you want to go to a great school. No different, by the way, to someone who wants to have a job or get a job, or, coach who's one day wants to be hired by an academy. it's the second step in whether we're going to go further or not. First, the conversation, and then second is let's do some digging. So my advice is, if you've got your own social media brand, or you're visible, just be very, very mindful of what you're putting out. A lot of young kids have their own accounts and they're doing fun stuff. That's all good. Keep it fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun, and it's kind of tennis, and it's kind of showing cool stuff. Well, 4 years later or 3 years later, when you're looking to start the college process, understand that that's still around. So you've got to be very, very mindful and careful. Another point that I'm going to throw out more as a coach, cameras are everywhere now, whether it's play, replay, or, whatever camera system the clubs have and tournaments have, especially the better player you are. Now the L1s, L2s, L3s, you can get a camera almost on every court. Be very mindful about what's going on in that court, whether it's a breakdown, a racket throw, a bad line call, whatever it's going to be. Be mindful that that's there, and it's there forever, and the coaches see it. And I'm saying that because I've had myself conversations with coaches about a player that's looking to go to a certain school. The coach Scott, that's another question I'm going to ask you. The coach always reaches out to the private coach or the academy coach or whoever it is and asks about that person's character. What type of person are they? Do they have grit? What type of kid? What type of family? Are the family, the helicopter parents, or are they the ones that are letting the kid do it? Is the kid driving it? All of those questions definitely come to me on a weekly basis from coaches everywhere. But before I say that, be very mindful of what's going online, guys. Whether it's, videos or kids, having a breakdown during a match. We want to be really careful. We want to help our kids not to be in the situation where 2 or 3 years later that actually it hurts them. And that's out there right now. Scott, your thoughts on that?
I just echo it. And the word mindful was certainly, super, super important when you said social media. But look, it's the same thing. Coco Gauff goes into an alley at the Australian Open last night to break a racket, and they still picked it up. And again, it's the Australian Open, and there's probably 99 cameras. But look, I'll just tell you, you're always being watched. You're in a public setting. You're at a national tournament. There's cameras. There's organizers. There's umpires. Hey, coaches go to umpires. Conrad, it's not. Again, yes, 100%. If they're recruiting a player, they're going to go to the private coach and say, "Hey, talk to me," because that private coach is on the court with them every day. But locally, or if they're at the tournament, they'll go to the umpires and say, "Hey, what do you think of Johnny?" So just make sure you understand that. If you're on that backcourt playing doubles, you never know who's watching you. Super, super important. Hey, Ari, I got a couple quick things. I'm going to just, I'm going to note, here too is, I get asked this question a lot is what do I think of showcases?
Right.
And I'm just going to say that I always tell people that they should play a national or a regional schedule or an international schedule if it's ITF. That needs to come first, 100%. If you're going to play a showcase, there are good showcases in the summer. There's occasional, there's a couple showcases at the holidays. Otherwise, the showcases do not exist during the college season. You want to be strategic about the showcases and have a real purpose. And one of the things I always tell people is they should see what coaches are going to be at the showcase and then sort of sign up and go forward accordingly. But play your national, your regional schedule first, and then you can utilize showcases. Also, some of these coaches have ID camps. So Middlebury has an ID camp, and Yale has an ID camp, and Claremont does. And so sometimes, again, you can utilize that, but make sure you're close. Make sure, again, you're tracking into their top six. And then something else that gets asked too is that there's questionnaires on websites for coaches, men's tennis Drew University or men's tennis NYU. If a school has a questionnaire, a recruiting questionnaire, I highly recommend you fill it out, and I highly recommend you fill it out professionally. Does that mean that you can put, not available or undecided or I don't know next to some of the questions? Absolutely, but go in and fill those out. And sometimes coaches like to have a file or you in the system or something along those lines. And again, there's a sort of what we use in this space is called demonstrated interest. And again, we want to take this 100 hours and demonstrate interest to all these schools that we want to go to.
I guess, Scott, what we're going to do right there is put a line in the sand because there's just a bucket of questions. I'm getting texts like crazy. They just come straight to my phone. Scotty Treibly, I'm absolutely, super proud to work with you, man. I love working with you. I learn a lot every day. The landscape is changing massively on the college front. I think you are absolutely the premium and number one guy out there. I'd like everyone to know about your services and how they could get in touch with you, either directly or through a consult. Because, mate, again, I can't answer all the questions. I wish I could, but we need to know how people can get in touch with you.
So at the first slide, I had my cell phone on there and said, text me. And I just put in the chat my cell phone and I said, text me. And I'll tell you all my cell phone number is 941-704-7016. 941-704-7016. Text me. Let's set up a 20-minute call. I'll answer your questions. That doesn't mean you need to sign up with me, but I can certainly tell you more about this space. I'd just like to say to you, Conrad, that, yeah, it's been great. I remember us having lunch, and I just think, 10 years ago, and I think Center Court's the premier center, the regional hub of junior tennis. I know you all have adults and everything else that goes with having a club. So it's been fantastic working together. I will also say in ending that, college athletics for years stayed the same. For the last 3 years, we've changed that we probably have seen in 50. I think we probably still have another 2 or 3 years. Again, that is Ohio State, Michigan's, Georgia's where I think we're seeing the majority of it. But there is trickle down. We didn't talk much about the transfer portal, but again, I would say that that's somewhat at the very high level, but I've had D3 kids transfer too. But again, I'd love to do a follow-up with you guys. Maybe we could do it summer as we're going into the fall season and people are getting ready to start new or something. I would love an opportunity to come back and talk to the families again. And with this many questions, I love it when we get asked this many questions.
Yeah, there's no doubt, mate, that this space is so interesting. And it would be remiss of me to not conclude by saying, Michael Jeng, absolute legend, Australian Open, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I remember the first time, Scott, that you came down and spoke to our group. We're at Morristown. At that time, it was our full-time academy. Michael Jeng was in the front row. He was in the front right seat. You were right next to me. His dad, Joe, was 3 seats behind him. Next to him was Evan Wen. Next to him was Nick Kotzen. We've gone through a whole generation of stars that started as just full-time kids playing tennis, that pursued their goals, studied damn hard, no question about it. Those kids are really good academically, and look where they are now. Yep. We're at a point now where we're looking to the next 9 years, 7 years, 5 years, and I think we have the talent at Center Court in our academy to be able to fill a lot of the Ivy spots, et cetera, et cetera. So, mate, thank you for everything you do. We're definitely pumped to do it more we can. I hope we can do a showcase this summer. And that's been great. So thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, you bet. And again, anybody that needs me, go through Conrad, text me directly. We work together. What's so great is our partnership because it takes a village to do this. Thank you so much, Ari. Sophia, thanks you behind the scenes. Give a big high five to Clay for me.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining as well. And any questions, we put all of our information in the chat. Awesome. Great stuff. This was amazing.